Welcome to Game Fondue Reviews. In this video, we're going to take a look at Codenames. In Codenames, players break into two teams racing to figure out a group of code words before the other team based on one-word clues from their spy master. Let's jump right in with the description of the rules, see a few example turns being played, then we'll be back for some closing remarks. This is the setup for Codenames. All you really need to do is lay out 25 code words in a 5x5 grid like so. Other than that, you just put the bystanders, assassins, and agents nearby where everybody can access them. And you split into two teams and choose one spy master for each team. I should note that this is for 4 players. We will talk about the 2 and 3 player variants briefly before moving on to the example playthrough though. In any case, the chosen spy masters should sit together and all the teammates should sit opposite them. From there, the spy masters just draw a key card and put it on the stand like this. It doesn't matter which way they put it because it's a square. So they're going to have that for their eyes only. The other players cannot see this under any circumstances. The game turn is broken into 2 phases, which are giving a clue and making contact. Teams will try to correctly identify the words that match their color, so they're either going to be a red team or a blue team, and these words are indicated on the key card here, what goes with what. So for instance, embassy, leprechaun, mouth, and shot, we can see are all red cards are going to be needed for the red team to win the game. With that said, a team wins the game if they can correctly identify all of the words that match their color, but they lose immediately if they ever accidentally identify the assassin. In this case, the assassin is duck, so you do not want to point to the duck card in this setup. The key card is always going to identify which team goes first, so we can see in this game, because there's 4 red lights around the key card, the red team is going to go first. So the first part of the turn is giving a clue. On a team's turn, their spy master is going to give them a one-word clue, followed by a number. The one-word clue has to be about the meaning of the words. It cannot be about their position in the table, or the letters, or number of letters in the word. Another restriction is that the clue must be given in English, or at least that's what it says in my English rules version of the game. The clue, however, cannot be part of a compound word that's currently visible in the table. If it's covered up, it doesn't matter, but an example might be if the word is horseshoe, you cannot say horse or shoe until that word is covered up. The clue can also not be any form of a word that's currently on the table. So for instance, we have the word tag. You couldn't give a clue of tug or something like that. And you are allowed to spell out the word. So for instance, if I gave the clue board, maybe I want them to get game, I could say board, B-O-A-R-D. So there's no confusion about what I mean by that. Before moving on, I also want to point out there's some gray area with clue giving. For instance, proper names are technically legal within the rules, but you might want to specify in your group whether you say George or George Washington, whether a full name, for instance, is one clue or not. Also, hyphenated words are technically wrong, but if you guys want to play them, you certainly can. And then you should discuss beforehand what you guys are going to do about acronyms, whether or not they will count as words with things such as CIA or PhD and the like. But anyway, after the spy master says the word, they're going to say one number, and that number cannot be a clue. For instance, if a word is octopus, you could not give a clue for a different word and then say 8 to suggest octopus. The number is just the number of words that that clue relates to. An example of this might be if I'm the spy master and I'm trying to get you to say Beijing and duck, I might say China 2, meaning it refers to 2 words on the board, and both of these things have something to do with China because duck is very popular in Beijing. Alternatively, the spy master may give the number 0, meaning the clue that he just gave has nothing to do with any of the words on the board. The last thing a spy master could do is say the number unlimited or infinity, meaning any number of the words have to do with that clue. So that's the first part of the turn. Whichever spy master's team's turn it was, so it was the red player's turn this time, gives a clue, and the red team members are going to guess what the answer is in the second part of the turn. I will point out, though, that when giving a clue, the spy master should not say anything else like, you know, this is a bit of a stretch, and should not make any faces or any indication of what things are there. Technically, in the rules, it says they're not even supposed to make eye contact, but that's a bit extreme. The penalty for illegal clues, if they say something that does break any of the rules we just gave, is that the team doesn't get to take any guesses, and the other team can cover one of the words of their choice. So for instance, if the red team says an illegal clue, blue may decide to just go ahead and cover triangle for free. And more on that later, because now we're moving on to the second part of the turn, which is making contact, which is when the teammates of the active spy master take their guesses. So after receiving the clue, the team guesses words in the grid that it thinks the spy master is hinting at with the clue just given. To do this, the team touches words in the board one at a time, and the spy master reveals if they are correct or not. So let's say, for instance, it was the red team's turn and the spy master is looking carefully at this. Of course, his teammates cannot see it, and he gives the clue recess 2 because he thinks that's going to get them to the right spot. So the team looks and they decide to touch play first, and we consult this and we see that play is red. So the spy master would reveal whether they were correct or not by covering it with one of these. If they covered it with their own color, which they did here, they could continue guessing. If they covered it with a bystander or the other team's color, they're going to have to stop. And if it was covered with the assassin, they've lost the game immediately. A team must always make at least one guess, but they can continue guessing as long as they're correct up to one more than the number given by the spy master. So in our example, we gave recess 2, so that means that that the team could guess 1, 2, or 3 times, because 3 being 1 more than 2, if they were correct each time along the way. So maybe they decide to guess again, and they say, you know what, at recess we play games. So they touch game, and we realize, oh no, that's this. So even though they could guess up to 3 times, they have to stop immediately because they hit a blue, which is the other team's color. Also, in the event the Spy Master gave a number of 0 or unlimited, the team can make any number of guesses, but still minimum of 1. So the teams are going to alternate turns just like this, but the game ends immediately if one team ever picks the assassin they've lost at that time. Alternatively, the game ends when one team covers all of their color, in which case they are victorious. Before we go into the example playthrough, I briefly want to cover the 3 and 2 player variants. In a 3 player variant, you're just going to have 2 Spy Masters and 1 person that guesses for both teams. However, in a 2 player game, you're just going to pick one of you to be the Spy Master and the other one will be the partner. You're actually going to play on the same team, and make sure you choose a key card where your color goes first. If you pick a card, you're just going to have to stay as that color. During the other team's turn, what would be the other team's turn, since there is no other team, you're just going to choose one of their words to cover up. So the Spy Master can use some strategy there, but that's about it. All of the rules are exactly the same. Let's get going with this example playthrough. The players have divided into a red team and a blue team, and the 2 Spy Masters are looking at this key card. Nobody else, of course, is allowed to see this key card. They first notice that the robot is the assassin. They don't want to give any clues that would lead somebody to say robot because they will immediately lose the game. We know the red team is going to go first because there's 4 red lights around the outside of this card, so he's just going to go ahead and say scratch 2. And his team's going to look at this and they're going to touch different words. They think cat scratch, so he's going to check this table here. Just line it up with the words and you can see that cat was red. Now they have some other ideas for the second one, but just for the sake of it, let's say they say bug is the second word. Remember, they could give up to 3 because he said scratch 2. But unfortunately for them, that's a bystander, so even if they wanted to keep guessing, they have to stop. Next is the blue team's turn, so he's going to give a 1-word clue and the number associated with the clue, just like that. He's going to say sneaky 2. So the first word that pops into their head is spy. So they go ahead and touch spy. We can see here, based on this table, the spy's location, it is in fact blue. And then they're going to say, you know what, thief. Now they could go for 1 more word, but they're pretty sure 2 was the number he wanted them to get, so they're just going to stop at this time. So play's going to go back to red, and it's going to continue back and forth just like this. No surprises here. Unless somebody hits the assassin, they've immediately lost the game. Otherwise, the game is going to continue till one team covers all of their words, so their key card and the board look exactly the same, in which case they are the winners. As it says in this box I have here, Codenames is currently the #1 rated party game on Board Game Geek. I mention this because I don't consider this that much of a party game, and that it's not a game I would play with a whole bunch of new players at a party like I would play like Catchphrase or Telestrations, or something where you're just kind of having silly fun. It doesn't really matter if you have a lot of thought going into what you're doing or not. But the Spy Master in this game in particular really does have to think about things, and sometimes when you're guessing clues, you have to think as well, because sometimes it's a bit of a stretch. Now that can certainly be funny, and people can laugh at some of the things you might think things are and things like that. But there's definitely calculation going into it, so much so that with some people, you're definitely going to need to use that little timer they included with the game. I didn't really talk about in the video, but for some people it's not a big deal. For most people it's not a big deal, but for some people they're definitely going to need that time limit, especially for making clues. The game itself is a simple game. It's fun. It plays quickly. I don't really like it with a whole big group of people, and that's why I don't consider it a party game so much. I like it with 4, and I can play it with 4, 2 on 2, where one person's giving clues and one person's receiving them. I think it works perfectly good. When you get too big, it starts to be too many people having, different opinions and things going there. And some people can kind of get pushed out in that respect. But the game works perfectly fine for what it is. It's a game some people love. Some people want to play it 10 times in a row. They want to do nothing but play Codenames. I'm not one of those people. I'll play it once. I probably won't say no to it. Maybe twice. But beyond that, I'd like to move on to something a little bit different. There's an amazing amount of thought in putting some of those clues in that's going to be fun for some people, and some other people will just like to guess. But if it looked neat to you, it's a game with a tremendous amount of hype right now. That's Codenames.